So what do you do?
I work for a third-party administrator. We are known as an independent TPA in the healthcare industry. So I work with the self-employed employers to ensure that they have creative solutions, meeting them where they're at, and then helping to evolve them to make sure that they have the richest benefits and retain the best staff.
Okay, awesome. So what kind of companies are you working with?
We work with all sorts of companies. So a large niche of ours is to work with hospitals and health systems. We also have a large niche as far as school districts or municipalities. And then you do find a lot of manufacturing companies come over as well.
Okay, so when you're working with companies and school districts and health plans and things of that nature, what's a trend that you think they should be considering as they're dealing with the rising cost of health insurance in their business?
Yeah, I think a big one is automatically renewing with whoever it is that their insurance carrier is today, right? So I think oftentimes we don't ask enough questions because we don't really understand maybe as far as why our premiums are continuing to increase each year, right? So the more questions that we can ask and the more we can kind of dig in, the better off we are as far as making educated decisions.
Okay, well, what's a question that you think they should ask of
Yes.
their advisor or of their insurance company?
Yeah. I guess I have a few. So
Okay.
one is, how do we improve the member experience? Because right now, a lot of folks just kind of feel like it's the wild, wild west out there in healthcare, right? Like nobody really knows how to go to their doctor, what questions to ask, how are they being navigated, things like that. So I think the more that we can do as far as helping these employees, as far as navigating the healthcare system, the better. So that would be a first question.
Okay.
Second question is, what have you done, consultant, to ensure that we are getting the best rates? So whether it's carving out your PBM, if it's carving out stop loss, if it's adding cost containment solutions, which is really just improving the member experience and making sure you're saving the overall plan spend. It's questions like that instead of just automatically renewing.
Okay. In your experience, the things that you're talking about where you're carving out a PBM or carving out stop loss, reducing the overall cost of the plan to the insurance, but of the insurance plan, but also to the member, what sort of disruption does that cause?
Yeah. I think a lot of times, like these employers start to see like, oh, not everything's bundled under one umbrella, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes a little terrifying or a little scary when in all reality, like shifting your administrator shouldn't be at all that difficult. It's providing you with the financial savings that you need to, again, make those kind of the educated decisions to ensure that your employees have the right benefits for that plan. So I think oftentimes when we look at disruption, it's really not all that much of a disruption. If we were to look at disruption as a whole, I often say, like, what is that brand name getting you, right? And I think if employees really understood that the brand name is allowing them to see kind of any doctor, but it doesn't necessarily mean the doctors are of great quality, right? It could still mean that they're kind of wandering around in the healthcare system, not really understanding that. If we can get them off of that brand name and really start asking the questions of what else is out there and how else can we navigate that membership, the better off we all are.
Okay. What's a mistake that you see brokers and consultants making with their clients when they're going through the health insurance renewal process?
Innovation can be work, right? And so,
well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So the more that we piece out or unbundle, the more it could be seen as more resources that take place. It could be more
for the
education
broker or for the client?
For the broker,
Okay,
right?
okay.
It could be more education that has to take place, which means maybe more on-site visits, maybe more phone calls. It could be answering additional questions, things like that. It's not the easy button anymore, right? The easy button is to renew with the bundled solution that you have in place and remain that way for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So I think as a consultant, I think the innovation, again, is just, it's change and it can become taxing a little bit, right, on their resources.
Based on that innovation, that working with the right brokers and consultants, what sort of savings does that bring compared to staying bundled with the big carrier solution that somebody might have in place today? So it's more work for the broker consultant, but what's the reward?
Yeah, I feel like the reward is significant, especially when you start to look at the healthcare industry as a whole. Like if you look at bankruptcy alone, most of the cases of bankruptcy are in some way applied to the healthcare industry, right? Like members can't afford their healthcare today, or they get some type of surgery done, and again, they can't afford that, right? And so it's really taxing, I feel like, on Americans. And I think as a consultant, your job is to ensure that you're providing all of the solutions possible to your client. Your client may not be ready for innovation today. They may not be ready for a change, but it's your job as a consultant to make sure that they know all of the ins and outs of what could be, whether it's next year or 5 years from now.
If you were to give a business executive one piece of advice to improve their benefits and improve the cost of their plan, what would that advice be?
I would say choose a TPA that gives you your data. So like anything that we can see as far as your information and data should be available to the client. And I think oftentimes without that information, you can't make the clear, educated decisions as far as what other solutions you may want to put in place or the different types of innovation that you want to kind of move into over the course of the next few years if you don't know where your experience or utilization is.